From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Out and About Today. Sponsored by the Tennessee Performing Arts Center.
Good evening and welcome to Out and About Today. I'm Pam Wheeler. Tonight's show will focus on the most recent legislative session in Tennessee, and specifically the anti-trans college athlete bill sitting on the governor's desk at this very moment. Our guest tonight is Dahron Johnson, activist with the Tennessee Equality Project. Welcome to Out and About Today, Dahron.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
I am glad you're here. I wish we were going to talk about some broader topics, and we're going to get to this legislation and what might happen. I've got to know you a little bit through what I've read in the news because you've been interviewed quite a bit. You were on Open Line here a few weeks back. Tell our viewers a little bit about you, as much or as little as you want to share on the show tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I've lived here in Nashville since 2004, came here for divinity school, and I'd moved around a lot when I was younger. Hyper-educated parents who kind of went from institution to institution, and so got the opportunity to live in a lot of different states, meet a lot of different folks, and I mention that because it's been kind of critical to have to feel comfortable in the variety of conversations I've been fortunate enough to be able to have over the last little bit. But as to the person that brings me here today, I first started really realizing that what people perceived of me on the outside wasn't matching what I understood and knew of myself on the inside when I was probably around 9 or 10 years old, around that age when we first start recognizing ourselves as a person among other selves, really start interacting and being in relationship with the rest of the world. And at that moment, I knew. However, I didn't have a positive language in which to express who I was, especially coming up in the 80s and 90s. The language around transgender folks was very damaging and had been for a long time before that as well, too. And I wanted to be able to have the ability to say, this is who I am, and say that with some affirmation of self, rather than I'm simply not these other things, not a monster, not a villain, not a, whatever. I wanted to be able to say, this is who I, Dahron Johnson, am, and to be able to claim that, to feel some pride in that. And it took me a long time. It took me 50 years almost to get to that place.
How many years?
50.
Oh, wow.
I turned 52 in just a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So,
and tell me about the support over this time. How were you received with family and friends, community?
Yeah, that I think is one of the biggest fears that any trans person, whether they're trans female, trans male, non-binary, gender non-conforming, that letting the folks around you know this aspect of yourself that you feel so innately as anybody else around you feels their own identity, that simply the worries of what that might look like keep people in the closet for a long time. I know it certainly kept me in the closet for a long time. Part of that, I think, is our own absorption and our own coming to believe that problematic language that we have around us, that monstrous language. But at the point where I realized that I simply could not thrive, I could not be, really, without claiming this as part of myself, I had to step forward. And while there was certainly questions, and while there was certainly even periods of grief about the person that they knew, my family has been really supportive all the way through. My work is with grief on a day-to-day basis, and I feel like that really helped me actually in this process because I knew that I had to allow folks some time, that even if they were fine with the change, that change is itself a type of loss and loss is going to carry grief. And so I just needed to leave space for that. It doesn't mean it wasn't hard at times, but I think that that's allowed for continued relationship with the people that are most dear to me. My wife and I celebrate our 25th anniversary. This September we'll have been together 27 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Just next month. And I think that that speaks to how we both realize that without a full self coming into that relationship, it doesn't matter what part of you you're leaving behind. You're leaving part of yourself out of that relationship, and it was going to be a problem. And that a healthier relationship depended on us bringing our whole selves into that space. The same thing with my dad and others, that I think that they recognized that the better me was the more whole me. And so I've been really fortunate in that regard.
It sounds like it. And I think we have to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Stay with us. Dahron Johnson is here.